Is 2024 the year where Nashville's housing market is finally going to crash? If you're a home buyer in Nashville or the surrounding area in Tennessee, I'm sure you guys know how much this market has appreciated since the pandemic. And it seems like now we're finally seeing the signs of this market really begin to slow down. The question is, will that slowdown turn into a big price collapse this year? Well, let's get into the data to find out. Let's start by just evaluating some basic stats about Nashville's housing market on Reventure app. You can see that the typical value of a home in the Nashville metro is now up to $441,000, which is roughly double what it was about 8 years ago. You can see the big jump that occurred during the pandemic. And now that price growth, it's really started to slow. However, it's still at a very high historical level. And ultimately, the main driver of home prices going up or going down tends to be the inventory levels on the market. And this is where we've seen a big shift in Nashville over the last 1 to 2 years, is that the inventory levels have really started to pile up. There's actually lots of homes for sale on the market, lots of listings. And this surge in listings, it's something that indicates that we could see prices drop pretty soon. With the for sale inventory on the Nashville housing market surging up from a low of 1,600 homes on the market in March 2022 up to 6,200 homes on the market in March 2024. So take a look at this, everyone. The inventory in Nashville is now at its highest level since back in 2019. And you can see from 2019, the inventory just went down and down during the pandemic, and it was this really low inventory which caused prices to spike. Well, now we're no longer in that low inventory situation. Particularly in Davidson County, everyone. Inventory in Davidson County is now up 43% from the long-term norms. This is where I think prices have the best chance of dropping over the next year. And if you're a home buyer and investor in Nashville or surrounding Nashville or any part of Tennessee, it's important to understand that the market has changed a lot in your favor in the last 2 years. And I know it might not seem like that at first if you're a buyer in and around Nashville, because you're still going and looking at houses and you're seeing prices that are just really, really expensive and disconnected from reality. So that can get discouraging, right? However, the thing to remember is that the underlying fundamentals are getting better for you. Not only is there more inventory, there's also now lots of sellers reducing the price on their houses. With data on Reventure app showing that the price cut rate in Davidson County has spiked all the way up to 27% of all listings reducing the price in the most recent month. You can see that this is the highest rate of price reductions since at least 2017. This data on Reventure app goes back to at least 2017. We've never seen price cuts this high, especially for the spring housing market. So that's a signal that there's increasing softening, that sellers are getting a little bit more desperate. And this is especially true as we go closer and closer to the center of Nashville. You can see the price cut rates are highest on the north side of Nashville, in East Nashville, out up towards Lakewood. Lots and lots of price cuts in these areas. Whereas if we zoom out, we can see fewer price cuts in some of these outlying suburbs. So most of the sellers who are cutting the price are closer to the urban core of the city. And so these are some key metrics that you have to track as a home buyer and investor, right? If you're someone who's trying to make an educated decision about what's going to be one of the biggest financial purchases of your life, I mean, if you're buying a house in Nashville Metro, you're probably spending at least 400, 450,000. If you're buying a house in Williamson County, oh boy, you're spending probably at least 800, 900,000, probably $1 million if you're buying in Williamson County. And so with these huge price tags, you have to make a more informed decision and really educate yourself on where the market is heading. And the best ways to do that are by looking at the inventory trends, the price cut trends, as well as how over or undervalued home prices are in the area you're looking to buy. This is really the thing about Nashville that makes me nervous. It's not necessarily just because inventory is up and price cuts are up, but because the market itself is just heavily overvalued and disconnected from its long-term fundamentals. I mean, this was a place 10 years ago that was truly affordable, that actually allowed locals and new people moving in to buy a house and feel like they could afford it. However, Nashville, it's lost that affordability. With home values across the metro approximately 30% overvalued in 2024. And you can see that this is the highest rate of overvaluation, except for the peak 2 years ago. This is the highest rate of overvaluation that we've ever seen in Nashville's housing market history. We've actually really never seen anything like this, folks. Like, if you go back '05 all the way through pretty much 2020, Nashville's housing market was fairly valued relative to people's incomes. Now it's tremendously overvalued. And you can see almost all the counties in and around Nashville are heavily overvalued. But in particular, I want to focus on Williamson County because this is a county I know a lot of you are looking and wanting to buy in. You can see in Williamson County, values are 42% overvalued compared to historical norms, with a typical home value of 871,000 compared to a fair home value of 615,000. And what's crazy about Williamson County, everyone, it's actually one of the most expensive counties in America. Like, this is something that blew my mind. Like, I knew Williamson County was well off. I knew people had money there. I knew the prices were high. But when you compare it to like some other areas in America, it becomes very alarming at just how expensive the prices here have become. There's one thing you can actually do on Reventure app is you can conduct some national housing market analysis, and we're going to do that right here. We're going to actually shift to looking at all the counties by home value, and you can see, the most expensive home values tend to be on the coast, like in New York, as well as on the West Coast in California. But you see this red dot here, Williamson County. And if we just filter to counties with a minimum population of 200,000 and sort by home value, we can see, it's like Santa Clara, San Mateo, California, San Francisco, Orange County, California, New York, San Diego. But we go to the second page, Williamson County is 13th, right behind Los Angeles County. So home prices in Williamson County are now almost as expensive as Los Angeles. And they're actually more expensive than King County in Washington, which is where Seattle is. And they're actually more expensive than Arlington County in Virginia next to DC, and also more expensive than Westchester County in New York, right outside of New York City. And so that doesn't smell right to me, folks. As someone who used to live outside New York City and spent a lot of time outside DC, I know how much money is in those areas. And the fact that Williamson County is now above those areas, that says to me that there's a bubble and that this bubble is not going to last. And at some point, we're going to have to see a correction in Williamson County because while it's a nice place and while there's lots of land and big homes, it shouldn't be as expensive as Los Angeles. Now, I don't want to come off as being like totally bearish on Nashville. I think over the long term, Nashville and Williamson County is a good place to buy if we have a long term time horizon. If we're talking something like 10 plus years, Nashville is a good place to buy because it's situated in a business friendly state, no state income taxes. Of course, there's lots of businesses and people moving in, lots of inbound migration. You can actually see here that Nashville added 24,000 people from inbound migration in 2023. You can see this was a level that was down about 25% from the peak in 2022, but still at a pretty high historical level. And you can see every year since 1991, Nashville has added people. So this is kind of a growth powerhouse. There's always people moving to the Nashville area, and that will likely continue into the future. However, one thing that does concern me is it seems like the rate of migration and population growth is declining. So if we look at migration as a percentage of the population, Nashville grew at 1.1% in 2023, which actually is starting to trend now like at or below the long-term average in terms of relative growth due to migration. So again, Nashville, it's still a high migration market, but you can see it's actually not growing as fast now as Knoxville. Knoxville actually is attracting more people than Nashville. Huntsville's attracting more people than Nashville. Most of this belt here in between Tennessee, North Carolina, Georgia, and northern Alabama is attracting more people. And so that says, everyone, expect future growth in the Nashville market. Expect that growth to be good for home values in the long term. However, I think we kind of need to realize that we've moved past this crazy pandemic boom of all the people from California moving in and paying cash for houses. That really isn't happening anymore. And it's reflected in the lower migration statistics. It's reflected in the fact that the inventory of homes for sale is spiking and that there's more price cut. Now, let's just get down to brass tacks. If you're a buyer and investor in Nashville, how can you put this data together so you can make a more informed decision about where prices are heading in 2024 and if now's the time to buy? Well, luckily on Reventure app, which is the program that I developed and have been showing you in this application, I created a home price forecast score. And this home price forecast score, it takes inputs on the trends in the market related to price cuts and inventory and days on the market in the last year's appreciation as well as mortgage rates. And it takes all those inputs and spits out a figure that tells you the direction of the market and the likelihood that prices will either go up or down in the next year. And you can access this data point by going to Reventure app and hitting home price forecast if you're a premium member. And you can see that the Nashville Metro overall has a home price forecast score of 43. And so what that means is that there's slight downward price pressure right now across the metro as a whole. 50 is average. So for below 50 on the score, we're saying prices are more likely to drop. You can see, for instance, in Knoxville's above 50. Knoxville's at a 53, indicating upward price pressure. But Nashville, we got some downward price pressure, as well as in Memphis, we have some downward price pressure. Now, note that there's some differences by county. You can see Davidson County, by virtue of having the most inventory and price cuts, has the lowest home price forecast score, while Williamson County actually has the highest home price forecast score of 46, which suggests some slight downward pressure, but the inventory in Williamson County actually hasn't bounced back as much as the inventory in Davidson County. And so while Williamson County is very overvalued, and I think eventually prices are going to drop, it's not seeing the same downward push right now that Davidson County is. And we can get even more granular on this by looking at the different zip codes in Nashville. You can look at this at the zip code level to see how your neighborhood is trending. You can see, for instance, like the zip code north of Nashville, it was a heavy seller's market 2 years ago. Home price forecast score of 78. Now we've shifted heavy into a buyer's market. And when you see this home price forecast go into this buyer's market territory below this dotted line, that's telling you as a buyer, more downward price pressure, more inventory, more price cuts, you're probably going to get a better deal over the next 6 or 12 months. Whereas when this score is up above the dotted line in seller's market territory, it's telling you that the prices still are likely to increase based off the fundamental. And of course, everyone, this isn't an exact science. We can't 100% predict where home prices are going in the future. However, I think it's fundamentally important for you as a buyer or an investor to arm yourself with the data that we do know and that we do have, which tells you about the trends in the market. Because if you're someone who's just trying to decide whether to buy or not to buy or what city or neighborhood to buy in, you're going to want to know what those trends are, what the home price forecast score is, how overvalued home prices are, as well as how much inventory and how many price cuts are on the market. Ultimately, arming yourself with that knowledge is going to help you make a more educated decision and know what to expect. So to track all of that data, head to www.reventure.app. Type in your city, in this case we're talking about Nashville, and pay attention to that home price forecast score, the overvaluation rate, as well as the inventory and price cut trends, because they're going to tell you a lot about what you need to know in your market. For instance, in this zip code, price cuts are way, way up, indicating downward price pressure. You can see a score of 31, which indicates prices are likely to drop. This data is available under a premium subscription on Reventure app. That premium subscription costs $39 a month, which is ultimately a very affordable price relative to the cost of buying a home. This data is going to help you make a more informed decision.